Hey everyone, this is Zach, and today I am going to talk about Drowsy and Frostbite and how it actually balances the status conditions in a weird way. If you guys enjoyed this content, do not forget to like and subscribe, but let's jump into it. In one of the most recent trailers for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, when you see the Terra raid going on, you see that Drowsy appears to be in the game. From there, we can kind of infer that Frostbite will be in the game as well. And when I first saw these statuses, I was okay with Frostbite, but I was iffy on Drowsy. But looking at it, Drowsy might be a feature that works out really well. So I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to make a video talking about it, and I wanted a way to present my thoughts and the information, my points across in the best way I know possible. For those of you who don't know, I am a teacher. For my real career, I was a first grade teacher for 5 years, and now I'm a technology and STEM teacher. So the best way I know how is a PowerPoint. Man, that year of online learning is really coming in handy. But yeah, this is my conversation about how Drowsy and Frostbite actually balances status conditions. Please like and subscribe. But let's get into it. What is a status condition? A status condition also refers to a status problem or a status ailment. Affects a Pokemon's ability to battle. There are 3 kinds of statuses. The first are non-volatile, the second are volatile, and the third last while a Pokemon is in battle. Pokerus is counted, but that's an unrelated concept, and that source is Bulbapedia. So for this conversation, we're going to focus on the non-volatile statuses, which include burn, poison, freeze, sleep, paralysis, confusion, frostbite, and drowsy. Those last 2 are the important ones of this conversation, but these are all statuses that we're very aware of, and we know what they do and what they don't do and how they benefit us. So here are my thoughts. I think that status conditions can be explained to have 2 parts to them. That is the offensive capabilities of a status condition and a defensive property of a status condition. So most of them have 2 parts. Some of them, you could argue that the status condition does a little bit of both, but let's get into that conversation right there. So these are the status conditions that we know of in Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is the last game, the game that we're still playing for another month. So we have burn. The offensive property is that it damages 1/16 of the max HP each turn. That is a damage benefit. And the defensive properties is that the burned Pokemon's physical attack stat is cut in half. For example, if your Pokemon has 100 attack stat and it's burned, it's going to be 50. I say that the physical attack stat being cut in half is defensive because if you burn the Pokemon, you're taking less damage from their moves, making that burn a defensive play. You are protecting your Mons, and the offensive properties of that is that you are causing damage to that Pokemon at the end of every turn. Freeze is unable to move, 20% chance to thaw. So this is one of those cases where the offensive and defensive properties are the same. If a Pokemon's not moving, it can't block you, it can't knock you out. That's defensive. If a Pokemon can't move because it's frozen, it's going to take hits. That's offensive. So that is RNG because there's a 20% chance to thaw. So RNG properties there. Sleep. The first turn of sleep is guaranteed. The chances to wake up on turns 2 and 3, I don't know what the exact chances are. I think it increases every turn. But once again, same as freeze, RNG based. You get 1 guaranteed turn of sleep, and then everything else after that is RNG. Paralysis. Paralysis decreases the speed by 50%. Now, I'm saying that this is offensive because this is more likely going to put you up on the speed chart compared to your opponent, and you're going to be able to hit them first and maybe knock them out first. The defensive properties is the 25% chance of being fully paralyzed and not attacking. Once again, defensive properties, if you can cause your opponent to not attack, that's a defensive property, and that is also RNG related, because you're not going to get that every single time. Poison does 1/8 max HP at the end of each turn. That is a damage just like burn, and this is one of those ones where I would have to say it's the same defensively, if not. I can't really say whether poisoning is more offensive or defensive. I think because you're creating damage with the poison, it is offensive, but that's up for discussion. And then confusion here is the one that actually doesn't have a status marker. So you have a 33% chance of dealing damage to the confused Pokemon. So if the Pokemon's confused and it hits itself, it gets damaged. So that is an RNG, but it's also damage at the same time. The defensive properties is at the same time, a Pokemon has a 33% chance of not attacking. Once again, if a Pokemon's not attacking you and you force them to not attack you, I think that is a defensive property. That's a defensive play of the mechanic. So here are the main mechanics. These are mechanics that we have been using for decades at this point. Crazy to think. But when you look at our stat chart, you have HP, attack, defense, speed, special attack, and defense. So if you want to cut down the attack, you burn. If you want to cut down the HP, you poison. And if you want to cut down the speed, you use paralysis. Now, I do know that attack also does damage the Pokemon's HP, but the main focus of burning a Pokemon is to cut down their attack. So I thought it was easier to reflect more of it as a status that affects the attacking more than the damage. Here are the new statuses. So if we have Frostbite and Drowsy, they're going to replace Freeze and Sleep. So this is now how the chart should look if those new statuses come to Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. So Burn does the same, Paralysis does the same, Poison does the same, Confusion does the same. Nothing arguing about that. Frostbite damages 1/16 max HP at the end of each turn. That is damage, so that's offensive. And then a Frostbitten Pokemon has special attack stat cut in half. As you can see, Freeze in the form of Frostbite has now become a special burn, which is amazing. Great rework. I love how that happened. It makes the offensive properties of a Pokemon more balanced in a way. But let's take a look at Drowsy. Drowsy, the Pokemon receives increased damage from attacks. Now, I put this as a damage and an offensive property because if you put a Pokemon to sleep and you can cause more damage, that is offensive. Now, with Drowsy instead of sleep, yeah, the Pokemon still has a chance to attack, but it's also going to take more damage. So I see that as a offensive benefit in your advantage. Now, the defensive properties is that a Pokemon may be unable to move each turn. We don't know the exact decreases, but I would have to say if Frostbite cuts special attack in half, if Burn cuts physical attack in half, I would have to say that Drowsy cuts the defenses in half. And I would have to say, I looked it up, it doesn't state whether it's offensive, it's physical defense or special defense, because they were really treated the same way in Pokemon Legends Arceus when it came to the idea of status conditions. But I would have to say that it's still going to affect both of them. A sleeping Pokemon isn't going to be able to protect itself from either of those attacks, so I want to say that it should affect both special and physical defense. With the defensive properties being unable to move, once again, we don't know the exact percentage as of yet. Some websites might. I looked on Serebii and Bulbapedia. They didn't have an exact percentage, but I would have to say it's probably 25 or 33, because that's what we see with paralysis and confusion. I would have to say it's because confusion can end. There's more of a risk, where Drowsy so far, I don't think has would end in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I believe it did in Pokemon Legends Arceus, but I believe all statuses were like that. But I think in this game, if a Pokemon's drowsy, it's going to be drowsy until it switches out. Kind of like Confusion in that way. But I do think it will probably have a 25% chance of not attacking. And once again, that is an RNG. You're making a roll that a Pokemon's unable to move. And if it's unable to move, you're not taking damage. Defensive property. So now when we look at the statuses here, we can see if you want to affect the physical attack, you burn it. If you want to affect the special attack, you give it Frostbite. If you want to cut down on the HP itself, you poison it. If you want to cut down on the speed, you give it Paralysis, you paralyze it. Or if you want to affect the defenses, you give it Drowsy, you make it go to sleep. So if you're looking at this is a whole chart. At any point in time, you can affect a chosen stat based on what status condition you use. So this will make a lot of status conditions a little more valuable to have. Where Freeze was very random before, you could now influence it into your game plan, into your counterplay against a certain type of team, a certain type of Pokemon. And I think that makes the game a little more balanced. Now, if you have a certain Pokemon with a certain stat that's tricky, you can put it to sleep to lower its defenses. Think of Ferrothorn in a way. You know, Ferrothorn is made to survive a lot of good attacks, and you could now put it to sleep with the Drowsy to give yourself a better chance of knocking it out. One thing I want to talk about is that in Pokemon Legends Arceus, Frostbite and Drowsy had certain moves that could break the status. For example, Flare Blitz and Flame Wheel got rid of Frostbite, where electric type moves got rid of Drowsy. I wouldn't mind that coming back as long as they did the same for the other statuses. For example, Burn, if you get hit with a Muddy Water or a Surf, or yeah, I would have to say those are two good moves, especially with Surf being a full spread move. Then your Burn is healed. If I don't know what would break Poison. Let me know. What do you think? What kind of move should break Poison? And maybe moves with priority, like Quick Attack or Extreme Speed or Bullet Punch, breaking Paralysis. I think Extreme Speed would be a good one, because you usually, if you become paralyzed, you do rely on priority moves to make sure that you hit the Pokemon. So I feel like priority moves breaking Paralysis would actually be a good tweak. But that is all. That is all. What do you think about it in the comments down below? Do you think the addition of Frostbite and Drowsy are good for the metagame? Do you think it's terrible? I think that Frostbite is great. I think we could have stayed with the same sleep mechanics as before. I think if Drowsy fully replaces sleep, things like Rest will become really good, because you will still have a chance to attack if you're drowsy instead of fully asleep. So I wonder how they're going to incorporate that. There could be stages of drowsy and fully asleep, like how there is poisoned and badly poisoned. I didn't talk about that in the video, but I didn't think it was really important because we were more focused on just the status condition itself and not the different tiers of it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far in the video, I want to say thanks for watching. I hope this was entertaining and that you liked it. If you did, let me know in the comments down below. If I said something wrong, let me know in the comments down below. But that's going to be all. Hopefully I will have some Spike Myth Cups. There are ladders going on tomorrow that hopefully I'm able to do. But yeah, that's all. See you later. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.